A year ago, I made a decision to delete my personal Instagram account for good. No, I don't mean deactivating my account, but I really mean deleting it permanently. Something that I thought would be so straightforward to do, like the step of deleting my account, ended up taking longer than I expected to the point where I had to research online how to delete my account. By the time I initiated the deletion of my account, Instagram ended up sending me an email signaling that I had about a month to rethink my decision before my account will permanently get deleted. If I'm here today in front of you, frankly, it shows that I never looked back. So, why did I decide to delete my account? Before I provide 7 key reasons, I want to specify that the reasons I'm about to provide are not meant to simply just target Instagram. These reasons can also apply to other social media apps like Facebook or Snapchat. But for the sake of time, I'm going to focus on Instagram today. So let's get to it. So, one of the reasons why I made the decision to delete my Instagram account is because I noticed that Instagram affects your ability to communicate with people and foster connections. So, picture this for a second, okay? You're at a cafe, you went there by yourself, and then all of a sudden you get approached by someone you don't know, and you guys hit it off, you talk, and you have a really good conversation, and the person initiates that you guys follow each other on Instagram and you accept, you agree. But after that conversation, you end up realizing that you never see this person again in person. Is that something that has happened to you? Because for me, I noticed that this was the trend. If I met somebody, let's say at a public space like school, in classes, or a public setting, we would hit it off, we will have a conversation, and then the person asks for my Instagram and I accept. I ended up never seeing that person again. And this is something that I noticed. I noticed that the reason for that was because Instagram kind of gives us this illusion of proximity. So because you added this person in your list of following, it's like your brain tricks you into thinking that, oh, because you have access to post like what they're doing, you can see what they're up to, you don't really take the initiative any longer to initiate an outing with that person or engage or communicate with that person and vice versa. And this is something I noticed time and time again when I was on the app. So the next reason why I made the decision to delete my account is because I noticed that Instagram promotes stalkerish tendencies. Now, this may be a controversial take, and this is something that I discussed in another video that I published last year. So check it out if you're more interested in this topic. But yeah, this is something that I noticed that not a lot of people talk about when they give the reasons as to why they left Instagram. For me, based on what I experienced, based on what I saw people that were my friend experience and also what they did, I noticed that Instagram can really propel people to use it in a way that is not healthy. And stalking is one of those things. Because it is an app where you can have unlimited access to it, you can be on it, you can scroll for lengthy periods on time, you can spend hours per day on this app. What it kind of like propels people to do is look at other people's profile. And look, inherently, there's nothing wrong with staying on a person's profile. Maybe it's somebody that you used to know, but you guys are no longer in contact, you're not following each other, and you're just like, oh my goodness, you want to reminisce the good old days, and you're on that person's profile. And, for maybe 8 to 10 minutes, you look at their profile and after you leave. I'm not referring to that. I'm specifically referring to instances where you go on a person's profile, it could be an ex that you haven't seen in years, it could be somebody that you used to be friends with, but you guys are no longer in each other's lives and you're not even following each other. And you go on their profile and you stay on their profile for lengthy periods of time. I'm talking about 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours to even beyond 2 hours. That's where I think it's something we need to address. And look, by no means am I trying to judge. Okay. I think it's really important, however, that we say things as they are so that we can help each other grow and hold each other accountable. Because the truth at the end of the day sets us free. And maybe if, let's say, it's something that you struggle with, right? I want you to know that I also, when I use the app, I struggled with it in other ways, but I do believe that the app, the way it is designed, right? It is designed to make us do things that if we never had the app, we wouldn't really do. So it pushes your psychological boundaries without you knowing. So that's the problem I really had with Instagram. I noticed that people would literally stalk each other's profile for lengthy periods of time. They would never initiate a conversation. They're not even following each other. But however, they found themselves on that person's page for lengthy periods of time. And for me, when you do this, right, it's like you're giving your time away for free to somebody who does not give a damn about you. If, let's say, God forbid, something urgent were to happen to you, the first point of contact that emergency departments are going to contact are not going to be the people that you whose profile you stalk, right? It's going to be people that are really close to you, right? So that's the thing. I think it's so tragic when we use this app to do that specifically, and I don't think it's a healthy behavior. I think that it's important to, let's say, if you have something to tell somebody, maybe you guys broke things off in the past, it's an ex, and you ended the relationship on bad terms, or let's say it's a friend that you are no longer friends with, right? And you guys ended the friendship on a very sour note and you never got closure. I think it's really important to reach out to that person so that you can just have closure. Or if you don't, then there are so many other ways you can release those negative emotions from you. Like maybe writing a letter, journaling. There's so many things you can do. But the thing about Instagram is that it really encourages people to not actually address their emotions in a healthy way. It causes us to use it to kind of be stuck in the past. We're not really present when we use it. We're kind of like in another virtual reality that does not exist. And this is one of the problems I also had. And to also add to that, something I also noticed in the realm of stalkerish behavior is that not only would people stalk people's profile, but some would even create fake accounts, right? Fake accounts to go stalk this person, look at their stories, because they don't want the person to know that that the person is looking at their profile. And this is something I noticed. I used to know people that would do that, and I noticed this trend time and time again. So the next reason why I deleted my account was because I noticed that Instagram was the thief of time. So according to a research that was conducted by the Pew Research Center, they wanted to examine how teenagers in the United States from ages 13 to 17 would use the internet a decade ago. So we're talking 2014 to 2015 compared to teenagers a decade later and how they use the internet. And the conclusion of this study was that teenagers in 2014 to 2015 in the US would be using the internet constantly. About 24% of this demographic group will be using the internet constantly. Fast forward to a decade later, the study showed that 46% of teenagers today use the internet constantly. And among the applications that they use, Instagram is one of them, right? So I found this study interesting because although I'm not a teenager, I am from Gen Z, right? And I remember at the time when I wasn't using social media applications like with intention and purpose, I would spend hours on these apps. And I didn't feel like I did something purposeful, right? I would just be scrolling on the app, And there were no limitations to that until I had to put the screen time kind of like time restriction on the iPhone. But before that, I just would scroll on the app, and there was just no limitation to how long I would scroll. So this is something that I noticed a lot, right? And the reason why I'm presenting this research to you is because I think it really helps to really support the point I'm trying to convey here, which is that honestly, when you use Instagram, it's like you're kind of giving away your time out of your precious life for free to $1 trillion company for free. So there's this really good book that I think can help illustrate my point here. And the book is called Le Prix du reste de ma vie. Okay. So this is the French version of the manga. It's, if I'm being specific, it's a manga. And if you're into these things, the English version is called I Sold My Life for 10,000 yen per year. So without going too much on a tangent, the main character, he decides he's like in his 20s and he lives a very mundane life. He's struggling to make ends meet. And what ends up happening is he discovers that there's a store where he can sell his lifespan in exchange for money, right? When he decides to consult a mysterious clerk at a bookstore, the clerk tells him that based on the value of his life, if he were to sell his life, he would gain in exchange the money that is worth the life he lived, right? He makes that exchange, and then he ends up realizing that his life was only worth about 300,000 yen, right? Which is approximately an equivalency of about $3,000. And that is below the average. So the mysterious clerk was saying that the value of the person's life can be measured by how they lived their life. Did they impact people positively? Were they present? Did they bring about positive change in people's life? When people remember this person, do they have good memories or bad memories, right? So that's how the value of the person's life is measured. And he, the main character, when he made that exchange, he noticed that his life was only worth $3,000 and he had about 3 months left to live before he died. So this book, this manga is very philosophical. It's such an amazing read and it's really not long. It has about 3 volumes. And what I really liked about the book is that throughout the story, the main character, he really understands the value of his life. He understands how finite time is and so many connections that he could have pursued. He didn't because he lived a life that was so mundane, so rudimentary. He didn't really foster connections with people because he was distracted by playing. I can't remember if he was playing video games a lot or if he was just caught up in work. But yeah, he didn't really pursue connections and he lived a very sad life at the end of the day. So, why am I giving you the example of this book? Because if we draw a parallel between the character's life to today, I think we can really draw a lot of lessons from the person's life, right? Because in this book, the main character, he gives his time, his lifespan in exchange for money. But isn't that kind of what we're doing, but with more nuance? Let me explain. When we are spending so much time on social media apps for lengthy periods of time, like Instagram, right? And we don't really put discipline on the amount of time that we use the app, we don't really use it with purpose and intention. It's like we're giving part of our lifespan for free, like that. And the more you compound the time that we spend on this app, we'll end up realizing when we get older that we sacrificed maybe, maybe without exaggeration, maybe we sacrificed about maybe 5 years of our lifespan to social media apps like Instagram. So the next reason why I deleted my account was because I noticed that Instagram promotes inauthenticity. So I noticed that when you use the app, you kind of are under a lot of pressure to highlight the best moments of your life. Let's say this could be moments when you travel, when you graduate, when you get married, or just anything that is like a big event in your life. those are the things you would put and share on Instagram, but it's like there was a lot of pressure not to be yourself on the app. And this kind of ecosystem was something that really stressed me a lot. I did not, every time I went on the app, I had so much anxiety from it. Every time I would post something or share a story, I had so much anxiety. And that was not normal compared to if, let's say, I would share a post on TikTok. I felt the exact opposite, no anxiety whatsoever. And granted, I know TikTok tends to have a lot of criticisms, but it's one of the apps that I really love to use. But that's a topic for another day. Let's focus on Instagram. So, the thing about Instagram also that I noticed is that there's this conflict between documenting and performing. So, when you are on Instagram, as I mentioned earlier, there's this pressure to kind of perform. So let's say you go and you take a trip to, let's say, Italy. I'm giving an example. And you go there, you are on enjoying this trip. Well, because you have an Instagram account, you feel like you need to share on your story pictures about your trip and you need to share. Now, the thing about it is I want us to really make a clear distinction between performing and documenting. So when you're documenting your life and you're sharing it on social media, to me, I don't think that's inherently bad because at the end of the day, some people they do it, they document their lives, they share it because it's like a public diary to their future self. And they share it so that their future children can see it and see, oh my gosh, what did mom used to do? What did dad used to do when he was younger? So they kind of document, right? And they curate their life and they share it online without expecting anything in return from it, any sort of engagement for it. They're really doing it for themselves. Now, in contrast to that, we have performative usage of social media, which is, for example, when you use the application, you constantly have to perform and you constantly have to present a version of yourself that is not really truly authentic to who you are. And the thing about Instagram is that personally for me, and it doesn't have to apply to you, maybe you completely see it differently, and I respect that. But in my personal opinion, when I was on the app, I felt like there was constantly this pressure to perform, to present a version of my life that was not 100% me, like in the sense that yeah, sure, if I traveled and I shared it on Instagram, at the end of the day that comprises like 1% of me. So the next reason why I deleted my Instagram account is because I felt like at the end of the day Instagram was boosting one's ego and pride. And this is something that's a bit hard to talk about, but we'll delve into it. So the way I noticed the effect that the app had on me is that honestly, I turned into a version of myself that I did not like. I became more prideful when I was using the app, and I just didn't like the version of myself I was becoming. There were times where I would take long breaks from the app because I really just did not like the emotions that it would stir up in me when I would go there. And what I also noticed is that because sometimes on Instagram, we tend to add each other or follow people who we just met and we don't really know them that much. What ends up happening is that over the years, we end up realizing that, oh, this person that I used to follow at the time, I don't really like their content as much anymore. So what you end up doing is you make a cleanup of your list of followings, and that's fine. Like I've had people remove me from their followings because they didn't like my content. There's nothing wrong with that. Completely okay. And I would do the same, right? When I no longer connected with people's profile engage post, I would remove them from my following. But there were instances where I would come across people in public where if let's say I removed them from my list of following, it's like they would take it so personal Like they would literally get offended by it in the way they would even interact with me. Or this, let's say these are people that I never even was close to like that, but they're a friend of a friend, right? If we run into each other in public, it's like they would just take it so personal. And this is something I noticed a lot when I was on Instagram. And I just really didn't like how Instagram makes people feel entitled to other people's engagement. Like I really don't like that idea. I think that at the end of the day, everybody can engage with whatever they want to, and just because somebody's not really engaging with your content, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like you. Because like I said earlier, honestly, social media is not the real world. It's virtual reality. It's really not real. Okay? What is real is what happens in real life. When you see that person, you connect with them, you talk to them face to face, you get to know them on a deeper level. That's real life to me, but not social media. The final reason why I deleted my Instagram account is because I felt that it was not really creating a space for support. So I don't know about you, but have you ever felt that, let's say you create a social media account on an app, and on this account the majority of people that are following your page are strangers, but somehow you notice that a lot of the support you get are from strangers more than you've ever seen before. But when you go to a social media application where the accounts you created, in this account, these are people that the people that you follow are friends, or maybe friends of friends, or maybe acquaintances, or maybe people that you just met. On this account, you don't get that same level of support, or even at times none at all. If that's something that you can relate to, well, welcome to the club, because this is what I noticed a lot when I was on Instagram. I noticed that when I was on Instagram, it became more and more difficult to share posts there, because at the back of my mind, I was like, this environment, honestly, it's not really supportive. So why should I keep sharing posts there? But when I would go to other applications like TikTok, for example, I would get so many like support from strangers, people that would engage with my post. And these are people I have never met before. Okay. But somehow they are extremely supportive. So yeah, this is something that I noticed. I noticed that, well, on Instagram, you are more likely to follow pages of people that you know, such as friends, acquaintances, or even people that you just met. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really lead to a lot of support just based on personal experience. Maybe in your case, it's completely different, but in my case, that wasn't the reality. So, what are key observations I made after leaving Instagram? For starters, I feel so much happier now. You have no idea. After leaving the app a year ago, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder. I feel like I live life with more intentionality now, with more purpose and clarity. I also feel like I invest more time in my hobbies. I read more now. I am more focused. And I also feel like I have taken back control. Like I have reclaimed my time, right? And that's where the magic begins, honestly. There's something to be said about when you're on an app that is designed to track your every move, that is designed to honestly keep you distracted at all times. And when you make the decision to really leave this environment for good, you remove the app, you delete your account, there's something to be said about how liberating it feels. You don't feel like you have to be in constant pressure to check the app, see what people are up to and stuff like that. No, you really live much more with intentionality now, and that's how I felt ever since I left Instagram. I also noticed that I am more intentional in the sense where I build more connections. So ever since I left, I take more initiative to reach out to people, to hang out with them, And yeah, that's something that is one of the best effects of leaving the app for me. So now you may be asking, Lonely Me, will you ever go back to Instagram? And my answer to that question is unknown, because although, yes, I did make the decision to delete my personal account, something that I want to say here is that at the time before I deleted my personal account, I had a business account, right? And in this business account, I would share updates about stories that I will publish online. I am a writer, and that is kind of like a business account that I have had for years. When I made the decision to delete my personal accounts, I completely removed Instagram from my phone, and I haven't been on the app for more than a year now. And that includes not going to my business account. So the only way I can see myself coming back on the app is really for business purposes only. In terms of using it for personal reasons, I think those days for me are I have left behind, because I didn't really have a good experience when I used Instagram through my personal account. I also want to say here that at the end of the day, I think it's also important to not be categorical in the way that I think, because I think today I may be this version of myself that doesn't really like Instagram, wants nothing to do with it for now. But at the end of the day, people change, human beings evolve. Our tastes change through time. Something that we didn't like in the past, maybe we can like later in the future. So, look, at the end of the day, I don't see myself going back through my personal account, but I could use it for business purposes. And if the app changes for the better, who knows? Maybe I'll go back. However, it doesn't look like it's going to get better. In fact, it looks like things have gotten worse with Instagram based on what people have told me and what I've seen in the news. So, I think my chances of going back are really low right now. But yeah, if you've made it to the end of this video, I hope it resonated with you. And I also want to say, look, just because this app doesn't work for me, it didn't work for me, doesn't mean that the same should apply to you. At the end of the day, I wanted to really share my personal experience with using this app, because I truly felt that it did not push me to be the best version of myself, like sincerely. So yeah, I wanted to share, and if you can relate, good. If you don't relate, that's also good too. But I'm happy you decided to stick till the end. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.